Hi, my name is Lacey, and today I'm going to give you an analysis of a painting by Caspar David Friedrich, who is considered one of the most renowned painters of the Romantic movement, especially in German Romanticism. He became famous for landscapes that emphasize emotion, spirituality, solitude, and the overwhelming power of nature. One of the most mysterious and emotionally powerful painters of the Romantic period. This painting is called Monk by the Sea. At first glance, the painting looks very simple and empty. Blue clouds and a person standing looking out towards the sea and sky. This isn't just any ordinary person. This is a monk, dressed in a long black tunic. There are almost no details, no bright colors, and barely any movement. But that simplicity is exactly what makes the painting feel so intense. The longer you look at it, the more it begins to feel emotional, spiritual, lonely, and even unsettling. The brushstrokes Friedrich uses creates a scene where nature builds a concept of endlessness and human beings are incredibly small. Caspar Friedrich was a German painter connected to the Romantic movement in the early 1800s. Romantic artists were interested in emotion, spirituality, imagination, and the overwhelming power of nature. Instead of painting busy historical scenes, Frederick often painted quiet landscapes with solitary figures. His paintings usually explore feelings like awe, contemplation, isolation, and the search for meaning in many of his works. People appear tiny compared to the mountains, oceans, forests, and skies. This reflects a romantic idea called the sublime, which is the feel of being overwhelmed by something larger than yourself. Nature can feel beautiful, but also frightening and infinite at the same time, as I believe Friedrich depicts in this painting with the dark and light hues of the clouds. Most of the canvas is taken up by the sky, which creates a feeling of power and silence. This is unusual because many paintings from this time were full of detail and balanced composition. Frédéric removes almost everything unnecessary. The result feels modern, even though it was painted in 1809. The vast landscape almost seems to swallow the lone figure standing at the shore. The enormous sea and sky creating an eerie and isolated feeling. The ocean is so dark it looks black, and the tunic of the monk is also black, as if he is part of the nature in a different form. Frédéric uses dark brushstrokes along the bottom of the painting, especially in the sand and water, which slowly blends upward into lighter tones. This gradual shift from darkness into pale light and fog-like clouds give the scene a haunting atmosphere, a spiritual movement as if the monk will also dissolve into the mist. The Bible portrays the ocean as a wonderful creation of God, a symbol of his power, wisdom, and sovereignty, while also reflecting human awe and humility before his majesty. Since it is a monk standing in this painting, it reflects the deeper meaning of spirituality. The monk standing alone before the ocean may represent a person confronting the presence and power of God through nature itself. In Genesis chapter 1 verse 2, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. Caspar David Friedrich often painted landscapes not just as scenery, but as emotional and spiritual experiences, which fits well with these biblical ideas about the sea representing both awe and divine majesty. The brushwork in the sky feels soft and blended with clouds that seem to melt into one another, rather than having sharp outlines. Because of this, the horizon almost disappears, making it difficult to tell where the sea ends and the sky begins. The lack of detail in some areas adds to the emotional effect of the painting. Instead of focusing on realism, Friedrich uses color, light, and texture to create a feeling of isolation, mystery, and awe before nature. As we zoom in and look at the monk standing out at the sea, the painting becomes much more detailed. One thing that really stands out are the white caps breaking across the dark water. Friedrich uses thin streaks of white paint to create the foam of the waves and the movement of the water. The darkness of the water makes it look fragile and subtle, but it gives the scene life and intention, as if the ocean is quietly restless. The monk stands completely alone near the edge on top of the sand dunes facing towards the sea. His posture is still and contemplative as you look at his curved back, and it almost looks as if he has his hand upon his chin contemplating. But because we cannot see his face, viewers naturally project their own emotions onto him. He becomes a symbol of reflection, loneliness, spirituality, and even human vulnerability. The sand in the foreground is dark and uneven, painted with loose, earthy browns and muted greens. The color of the monk's robe is almost important as well, as the dark robe blends into the landscape, giving more detail to the viewer about spirituality. At the same time, the robe creates a strong vertical shape against the horizon layers of the sea and the sky, helping the viewer focus on the solitary figure. You can also notice the birds scattered in the sky, high above the ocean. They are tiny and distant, almost disappearing into the atmosphere. Their presence makes the sky feel even larger and more alive in romantic paintings. Birds often symbolize freedom, spirituality, distance, and connection between the earth and the heaven. The blues in the painting are especially powerful. Friedrich uses deep gray blues and muted blue-greens that feel cold and heavy. These colors move gradually across the sky instead of changing sharply, which creates a slow emotional rhythm. The cooler tones make the scene feel distant, calm, lonely, and spiritual. Romantic painters often believed color could communicate emotion directly, and Friedrich uses blue to create these feelings of melancholy and contemplation. You can also notice the colors and brushstrokes. The darker tones gather towards the bottom of the sky, creating weight and pressure directed near the monk and the sea. The lighter tones near the horizon softly fade up and outward, which draws the viewer's eyes into the distance. There are also subtle contrasts between the pale light near the horizon and the darker clouds below. The faint light almost feels fragile, surrounded by the heavier blues and grays. The Monk by the Sea is powerful not because of dramatic action, but because of the emotions Friedrich creates through color, light, space, and atmosphere. The cold blues and the soft fading light, the dark sea, and the enormous sky all work together to create a feeling of power, isolation, reflection, and Frederic reminds us of how vast and mysterious the world really is. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this analysis by me of Monk by the Sea by David Caspar Friedrich. If you enjoyed the video, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe.